Welcome to my channel. In this video, I will show you how to export this tiny red tailcoat from CLO3D into Sketchfab. Sketchfab is a 3D publishing platform for sharing your models for download or viewing on their web browser or app. This tutorial covers a few settings and adjustments that will make sure your models export effectively from CLO3D into Sketchfab. Check out my Patreon in the description below for the project files used in this tutorial, as well as a written step-by-step guide, project ideas, and one-on-one support for advancing your skills. Let's get started. Let's open our file, open, project, export into Sketchfab, project. And here we have the tiniest tailcoat. It's meant for a child, and I want to export it so that my collaborators can see it in 3D. The first thing I want to do is make the file as small as possible by converting the top stitching on the inside of this tailcoat lining from OBJ to texture data. So let's go to top stitch up here in the object browser, tailcoat top stitch. When I click that, options open up in the property editor. I'm going to change OBJ to texture, and that will bake the top stitching into the texture file as opposed to adding to the poly count. Next, I want to make sure that my textures look good in Sketchfab. CLO3D's textures really only are meant to be seen in CLO3D, but we can help that by adding a normal map. Normal maps are a type of texture map used in physically based rendering engines that add detail by determining how light should interact with the model. If we go in the object browser to Fabric, we can choose our first velvet. And when we select that, under normal map, click these tiny 4 squares and go ahead and load in the velvet normal map. It'll come in at a pretty large scale, so under transformation, let's change that to 25%. Let's go ahead and do the same for the lining. Let's go just click in the object browser, go to normal map, click on the 4 squares, and then we'll go ahead and do file, normal, and change that to 5%. And lastly, we'll do the file lapel, click that, normal map, and file normal, and we want that to be a little bit of a bigger scale, so 10%. There are lots of free websites for obtaining your own normal maps. I will provide those in the link in the description. The last thing we do before we export is to make sure that our UVs are as practical as possible. So let's go up to the mode selection. Instead of simulation, we're going to click UV editor. That will bring up this window. Possibly your patterns will be scattered everywhere to the winds. All you have to do is right click, and as long as you have a good organization in your 2D window, you should reset UV to 2D arrangement. Mine looks pretty good, but I want to make it as square as possible so that it fits neatly into a square without wasting any space. So I'm just going to click and drag and manually move these around until it feels square. These are our buttons. Now I just want to right click, fit all UV to 0, 1. Length absolute is fine. This millimeter amount is fine. Okay. The more efficiently you fit your patterns into this square, the better your textures will look in Sketchfab. Now we're ready to export. Go to File, Export, and then we want to use GITF 2.0 GLB. Name your file. In the export window, we want to make sure we've selected all patterns. You're welcome to select avatars if you want. I don't. You can select all graphics and trims. We want multiple objects. We want thick. We want unified UV coordinates. Let's change this to 4096 for a higher quality texture. We'll leave these the same. Make sure all of these maps are checked. And then the rest of these are good to go. Make sure that scale is at meters and go ahead and click OK. All right, navigate to sketchfab.com, and once you've made an account, you can go ahead and click Upload, find your file, double click, Upload. Once the 3D elves have worked their magic, we want to go ahead and click Edit 3D Settings. And now our model and all of our textures are in Sketchfab. We want to go to Materials up here in the corner, click that, and then the first thing we want to check is that our normal maps are flipped. So go ahead and click this check box, and you will need to do it for each material. So you can either click up here, that one was just the metal for the buttons. File, we want to also flip that so that it works better. Velvet, flip, lining, also make sure that's flipped. Now we want to choose a lighting scheme that shows off our work. I like to use Studio, And then maybe rotate the orientation to catch some nice angles in there. Moody. Lastly, let's check the post-processing filters, again right up here, and then turn on SSAO to give some more shadows, and then also let's just turn on a vignette. Once you're happy with the way things look, go ahead and publish.